So just to start off, my name is Anabea Perez. I am a second-year environmental science student, and I am Saizi Dene First Nation. And today, I will share with you my fieldwork experience in Sanikiluaq, Nunavut. And so, scientists often ask questions about things they want to better understand. And so the question for this fieldwork trip was, where does the kelp like to grow? And I was able to do this research out of the University of Manitoba. I got an NSERC Undergraduate Student Research Award. And NSERC stands for the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada. And then this picture actually I took on the day that we got evacuated from Sanikiluaq because there was a big gas leak. And so I just wanted to add that. That was a very interesting day. And to start off, let me give you a little bit of context as to where Sanikiluaq is. I know that might not be a familiar place. And so as you can see, hopefully you can recognize Canada and then further recognize the Hudson Bay. And if you zoom in onto the islands of the Hudson Bay, you get the Belcher Islands. And that is where Sanikiluaq is. And so this is the place that I got to stay for 2 weeks. That was how long the trip was. It is a very nice facility. In the upstairs, you have the homey residence place where researchers can stay. And in the downstairs, you have offices where the people work. And there is also a lab space that we got to use. And so here are some pictures that we took on the trip. That sunset picture is one of my favorite pictures. On one of the days where it was too windy to go out, Katrina and I just went for a walk. And as you can see here, that's a picture of Katrina and I. She was also working at the University of Manitoba this summer, and she is also a student. Although she is in her 5th year, so she will be graduating this year. And so I just think the landscape in Sanikiluaq is a lot different than what we see here. First of all, a big major difference is there are no trees. And here is a picture of the boat that we did most of our research on. And one of the main things that I want to point out to you in this picture is the cage. And that drop camera cage is what we use to get footage of what the bottom of the ocean looked like. And because the cage is really heavy, and there is a spot on the cage for the GoPro, it sinks to the bottom and we have it attached to a rope, and then the camera stays the right way so we can get footage of the bottom of the ocean floor. And so what we would do, we would drop it, we would let it hit the bottom, and then we would pull it up, and then we would drop it again, and then we would pull it up, and we do that for a total of 3 times. And over here, this is a picture of the CTD sensor. And CTD stands for conductivity, temperature, and depth. And conductivity is like a measure of electrical currents that can happen in the water. And because there's more salt, usually that would mean salt water is more conductive than normal water would be. And as you can see here, the CTD sensor can give you a whole bunch of different measurements. And so at the end of the day, after we would cast the CTD, this was also attached to a rope, and I would lower it off the boat and let it sit in the water for a little bit, let it acclimate to the temperature, and then I would drop it to the bottom, and then I would raise it back up. And then at the end of the day, I can connect this sensor to my computer, and with the software, I can download all the data that I got from the different casts. And each time we would lower the sensor, we would take note of the time, the coordinates, and the depth that the boat read. And that way I can tell which cast was where and which cast was for what spot. And I can also tell that by looking at the depth readings, because as I lowered it, the depth kept going bigger and bigger, 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter. And once it hit the highest depth, I would pull it back up, and then the depth would get shorter, less, and then I can tell which was one full cast. And then over here on that bottom, that's Katrina and I, we are using a Kemmer. And what that is, it's a big water bottle that we open, and it's attached to a rope that is marked. And so we would lower it into the water, and with that we can get water samples from the specific depth that we want. And then at the top, that's a picture of a messenger. And we would send that down the rope, and it would close the water container, so we can pull it back up and fill up labeled water bottles so we can then use that water in the lab for the samples. So we collected water from 3 different depths. We collected water from 5 feet, 10 feet, and either the bottom or 30 feet, whichever was possible in that spot. And we used these water samples for nutrients, to look at the nutrients in the water, because that would help us know how the kelp likes to grow. We also looked at chlorophyll, which is the green pigments in the water, stable isotopes, and O18. And so really, all that we did with the water once we got back to the lab was filter it and put it in labeled containers, so then we can send it to the lab and they can give us all these readings. And so here are some pictures of the kelp that we were able to find. You can see the big kelp grab rake. That's what we used. We would throw it into the water and scrape it along the bottom and then pull it up, and hopefully we have kelp. We did not find as much kelp as we would have liked, but this was the first time we went out, and these pictures of all that kelp are from that first day. And then also we were able to pick up some sea urchins, and one of the locals that was helping us out on the boat, he actually eats them, and so I got to try sea urchin straight from the ocean. And so here are pictures of me coring the kelp for the samples. And I just wanted to quickly talk about what transects are. So as you can see on that map, there's a big yellow line, and that's kind of giving us an idea of where we want to collect data from. And so this is from July 19th, 2024. That was the first day we went out sampling, and I circled in orange where we were, and then I zoomed in on the exact points where we dropped the drop camera. And so here is some footage of the bottom of the ocean in the Hudson Bay. So we have a big kelp forest. We have a lot of kelp. And then as you can see, the first drop camera that we dropped, we have some mussels and some rock. And then the 7th drop camera that we dropped, we got footage of a lot of kelp. And so this was the next day we went out. This day we did 2 transects. And here is more footage of the bottom of the ocean floor. As you can see, it changes a lot. There's a big difference. Here's another one, fully covered with mussels. And here you can see between drop camera 1 and drop camera 2, there is a big difference on what the ocean floor looks like. One we have where it's very sandy, and another one we have where it's really rocky, and there's a lot of life. And I think what people don't really understand or realize is that even though the water is cold, there is still a lot of life. Like, not everything just lives in tropical weather. Like, there are some really cool animals and organisms that live in the Hudson Bay. And here's another sample site that we did. And more footage of what we got. This is my favorite part, I think. Looking at what the ocean floor looks like is really cool. So here is another sample day. We went out. Here we went in between 2 big pieces of land. And what's interesting is we did not find any kelp here. So based on the research we did here, we can assume that the kelp probably likes more open ocean. They probably have more access to nutrients when it's not quite so much landlocked, because we did not find any kelp when we went out to this spot. But this is what the ocean floor looked like there. And some more pictures. And this is the second last day we went out. We didn't go too far because it was really windy. And so this is pretty similar ocean floor. This was our last day we went out. And this is also pretty similar pictures of the ocean floor. And then here are just some pictures of the trip. There's Katrina and I out on the boat. It was pretty cold out, even though it was summer. So I had a mask covering my face so my cheeks didn't get cold, and I had my hat. And I just wanted to share some cool experiences that I had out there. This is a smokehouse, and this is Arctic char. And so I got to try it, and it was really good. And I just wanted to share with you all the equipment that we had to travel with, because it was just a direct plane ride to sunny Kilauea. And then I just wanted to talk quickly about citizen science. Siku is an app, and it is the Indigenous Knowledge Social Network. And so people in Sunny Kilauea actually make posts about observations about what they can harvest and what they see. And I think that is really cool that they have the community making scientific observations and making that accessible for them through a very easy to use app. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Arctic Eater Society. And that is about environmental and social justice issues in the Arctic. And Eiderdown is a duck, and Eiderdown is super, super warm. And so the Inuit up there used it a lot for clothing and for food, and that is and was very important in their culture. And I just want to make a quick note about how this trip would not have been possible without the knowledge of the Indigenous people that were living there. And I want to end off my presentation saying that Indigenous knowledge on the land, waters, and sky is so important in any type of research, especially scientific. The end, and thank you.